All right, my people, what is going on? It is your boy Mario, aka DJ Rebelations, and you're tuning into a new episode of Rebelations Reacts. All right, thank you so much for being here with me once again. We're all here together for one reason: to awaken our inner rebel, right? Always go against the grain, always question everything that you see, question everything that you hear. And that's why we are here.
What?
Anyway, I want to share something really cool with you today, okay? Today is not gonna be something where I'm talking about like that. I like the last video, it seemed a little bit too political for some. I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you watched the video, and if you haven't, go watch it after using the little link right up here. But yeah, really hope you check it out. This video is gonna be a little different. We're gonna go back to, you know, the spiritual realm, right? I'm obsessed with the spiritual realm. I'm obsessed with the idea of, you know, Nephilim. I have a few videos about Nephilim that you could also check out right here, starting with episode 1 of my 3-part series about Nephilim. But we're going to talk about angels today, okay? How many of you believe in angels? I definitely believe in angels. Angels are very real. If you have not seen one, you've probably felt the presence of one, right? So I know it's so, to some people it's too crazy to think outside the box or to believe that, you know, it is possible that, you know, the supernatural is real, right? But I'm here to tell you that it is super real, okay? And I'm going to share a video with you about a guy called Wes Huff, Wesley Huff. They call him nickname Wes Buff because he's like a really tanked dude, you know? He's a Bible scholar. He's actually from Toronto, Canada. And he went viral, you know, towards the end, I think, of 2024 or beginning, yeah, towards the end of 2024, because of the fact that this man single-handedly put to shame Billy Carson. Billy Carson is from Forbidden Knowledge, and his views about a lot of things, they sound very entertaining, but most of his stuff leads back to that Jesus was not Jesus, you know what I mean? And, you know, just, as a Christian, you know, just kind of can't accept those type of things, right? Wes Huff was able to basically prove to him Jesus is real, like just debunk a lot of things. That's the word I was looking for, that Billy Carson was trying to spew, or has been spewing through his work, right? So Wes Huff has been going everywhere. He's been going to like all the major podcasts. He was on Joe Rogan, he was on PBD, he was on he was who else is, like, he's been on a lot, like Ruslan, you know, a Christian podcaster. He's been on a few like major Christian podcasts, you know, but also mainstream podcasts, right? Like I said, he was on Joe Rogan's podcast. But today we're going to talk about angels. He was on the Julian Dorey podcast. Julian Dorey is actually the first time I saw Wes Huff being interviewed by anyone. And ever since then, I've been hooked on Julian Dorey's channel. You should definitely go check him out. He has some really good content. So we're going to talk right now about angels, biblically accurate looking angels. And this might trip you out. You ready? Let's dive in.
Jewish scripture occasionally refers to supernatural beings, like angels, like seraphim, like cherubim, like demons. But it doesn't really, or the watchers is another
the
one.
Jinn?
No,
That's different.
that's
Islam?
yeah, that comes along.
yeah.
That's about 600 years after.
Beck Lover somewhere is like, Julian.
Yeah, no, the jinn are a separate thing. That they're
Got it.
entirely, they're good and bad jinn. They're not even this sort of category. But so you have these things mentioned in the Old Testament, but they're never really explained. And so within this 400-year period between the Old and the New Testament, the Jews are like, okay, what do we think of this? How are we to understand these supernatural beings that are created by God, that exist in some sort of parallel world, in the unseen realm, and they're interacting with one another, and they have different forms and functions. So one of the issues is that we often refer to a bunch of these things as angels. Angel is not what the thing is, it's what the thing does. So,
Whoa, what? Angel is not what the thing is what the angel does. Very interesting way to explain that, right? I'm interested. I'm hooked right now. Are you? If you're hooked, please subscribe to the channel. If I haven't asked you already, please like the video if you're intrigued already.
Malach in the Hebrew, or angelos in the Greek, means messenger. So it is not a description of its ontology, what it is, it's a description of what it does.
Got it.
These are supernatural beings who go and they communicate messages to people. They're in some sort of relation in terms of their supernaturalness to other creatures like the seraphim and like the cherubim, who are supernatural divine throne guardians, which was a concept that was not foreign.
So the seraphim and cherubim are throne dwellers, like God's throne is what he means, right? They're surrounding God's throne. Interesting.
Into the ancient world. You have Lamassu, which are the winged bulls with the human heads in Babylon, and you have sphinxes in Egyptian and Hellenistic culture. These were just concepts that existed within the ancient world. The gods have throne guardians, and within biblical Judaism, these are the seraphim and they are the cherubim. So sometimes you'll see those memes, the biblically accurate angels.
Yeah.
Those are cherubim. That's what they are.
Okay.
It's not actually an angel. It's kind of a misnomer in terms, but I get it.
Wait, so seraphims and cherubims, they're not angels? They're beings, like supernatural beings, but they're not necessarily angels? Where's the evidence, bro?
Because we kind of broad brush with all these categories. The Book of Enoch is part of the literature that's trying to explain that. What on earth is this? Actually, if you go back to my wesleyhuff.com, so every Monday I do these posts that I call Manuscript Monday. So if you go back to the homepage, click that, scroll down, you'll see the blog post. Keep going. Right there. So biblically accurate angels. So I actually explain some of these. If you go down, go up, right there. So like angels, seraphim, cherubim, and then how these are portrayed. And I particularly go through the manuscripts and how.
By the way, this is from his website, wesleyhuff.com. If you want to check it out, because I'm definitely going to check it out after this.
Both Christian and Jewish interpretation of them reflects them differently. And then how these are portrayed. And I particularly go through the manuscripts and how both Christian and Jewish interpretation of them reflects them differently. But these are these characters which the Book of Enoch is trying to make sense of, along with demons. And so the way that they go about that is by capitalizing on the events that happen immediately before Genesis chapter 6 and the biblical flood, where you have the great-grandfather of Noah, Enoch, as this character who is explaining some of these fallen angels or beings. Genesis chapter 6 says that the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were pleasing to the eyes and slept with them, and that these created men of renown. And that's the word Nephilim.
Ah, there it is.
So the trickiness of this is that in ancient Judaism, when it's translated in other languages, Nephilim is almost exclusively translated as giants. But the word etymologically in Hebrew, nephal, literally means to fall. So there's this whole narrative within ancient Judaism of these things are fallen angels. And so, but that's not the same thing necessarily in ancient Judaism as demons, and that's where it gets complicated.
Okay, so I'm just.
Whoa, okay, right? So, very interesting, right? Like, fallen angels are not demons, right? Or like the ones that mixed with human women, right? Demons are not fallen angels. That's what he's trying to say. Is what I'm understanding. Did I get that right?
Reading the background here so people have it. The Nephilim, let me pull this over here so it's on the screen. The Nephilim are mysterious beings or people in the Bible traditionally imagined as being of great size and strength. The origins of the Nephilim are disputed. Some, including the author of the Book of Enoch, view them as the offspring of fallen angels and humans. Others view them as descendants of Seth and Cain. The reference to them is Genesis 6:1-4. But the passage is ambiguous, and the identity of the Nephilim is disputed according to the Numbers 13:33. 10 of the 12 spies report the existence of Nephilim in Canaan prior to the conquest by the Israelites. A similar or identical biblical Hebrew term read as Nephilim by some scholars, or as the word fallen by others, appears in the Ezekiel 32:27 and is also mentioned in the Deuterocanonical books, Judith 16:6, Sirach 16:7, Baruch
Deuterocanonical. What a word.
3:26-28, and Wisdom 14:6.
Yeah, so let me read that for us. When men began to multiply on the face of the land, the daughters of them were born. The sons of God saw that the daughters of men were attractive, and they took as their wives any they chose. Then Yahweh said, My spirit shall not abide in man forever, for he is flesh. His days shall be 120 years. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. These were mighty men who were of old, men of renown. So that's literally what the Hebrew says. And so it's not like the Wikipedia article accurately says, it's not entirely clear what's going on there. But Enoch is part of the Jewish conversation in trying to flesh this out. And particularly in the Book of the Watchers, which is the oldest book. And so that's what Enoch is. Now, part of...
I definitely want to, I have to read the Book of Enoch. For somebody that's obsessed with this topic, can you believe I have not read anything from Enoch? Right, or about the Watchers, right? From the actual book, right? So I'm gonna get that, and as soon as I get that, I'm gonna let y'all know.
Part of the confusion about the Book of Enoch is because the Book of Enoch is never considered scripture by the Jews, but ends up in the Ethiopian Bible. And part of
Ethiopian Bible.
Yeah, so the Ethiopian church is like is a wing of, you have these different sort of overarching denominations of Christendom. You have today Protestants, Eastern Orthodox, Coptic, Roman Catholic, and then the Ethiopian Church. And the Ethiopian Church, we know that around the 4th century, missionaries from Syria went down to what then was referred to as the Kingdom of Aksum, which is in modern-day Ethiopia, and they brought with them a whole host of literature. And part of this literature was New Testament books in Greek and the Septuagint, the Greek translation of the Old Testament, which at that point was finalized. And the Ethiopian church took all of this literature, which included literature that nobody considered scripture at the time, and they appear to have just been non-discretionary and included everything. So all of the debates that were happening in the Latin West and the Greek East about what was and wasn't scripture, they looked at that and they said, we're not really interested in that. We'll just take everything. So in being non-discretionary, they end up just canonizing everything, which leaves them with a canon of scripture that is completely unique and includes books like Enoch, which the ancient Jews and every ancient Christian didn't. Well, actually, I should preface that. There were a couple of early Christians who said, we think this could be scripture, but then they accept when, all the debates happen that, okay, those are pretty good reasons. We're not going to accept it in the end. And so
It's so crazy, how like a group of people, intellectuals that were selected, decided that, hey, certain things were not going to go into the Bible because of this and this reason, I totally understand, But it's crazy how a lot of preachers, a lot of pastors try to tell you, don't read those things. It's unnecessary. It's going to confuse you. It's not from God. I think it's very important to know if there's detailed information about the supernatural beings that exist in the realms of what we believe in. Don't you think? So the Ethiopians did right here.
So I don't know where the idea came from, but there is definitely a prevailing myth on the internet that the Ethiopian Bible is the oldest Bible. And that's not true. In fact, the oldest copy of the Ethiopian Bible, which is full in terms of a Genesis to Revelation copy, is 14th century. So it's a long, long time after. But there's a lot of talk online about Enoch, and particularly the copy of Enoch that is in the Ethiopian Bible, and that, that's actually reflective of the original Bible because the Ethiopian Bible is the oldest. I don't know how that myth started. It's patently untrue. But what ends up being what we call the Book of Enoch ends up in its final form in the Ethiopic canon.
Right. So that's very, very interesting to me that somebody like Wes Huff can explain something in that much detail with like a lot of facts, I guess you can say. He's very, very intelligent, very wise, very well studied. I'll say that. But yeah, I really, really want to look into it, and a lot more, regarding this topic, because like I said, now I learned that it's pronounced the Nephilim, not Nephilim. Why would it be Nephilim? It's such a gringo way to say things, Nephilim. It's a Nephilim. Okay, so let me know what you think about this. Let me know if it's a topic that interests you more. The topic of maybe deep diving a little bit more into who the seraphim are, the cherubim, the angels that are throne guardians, right? That's very interesting, right? Just like you mentioned, different cultures, different civilizations have throne guardians, like the Sphinx in Egypt and stuff. So yeah, let me know what you thought about this in the comments. Have you ever seen what the AI depictions are of what angels look like? I'm going to share some pictures at the end of this, okay? So you can check it out and let me know in the comments what you thought of it, okay? Thank you so much. I keep hitting this thing. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of What is going on today? I am tired. No, I'm not. This is a weird day. It's Tuesday. It's a weird Tuesday. Thank you so much for joining me here today for a new episode of Revelations Reacts. I'm your boy Mario, aka DJ Rebelations, on a journey to awaken my inner rebel. And I hope that you are also on the same path, on the same journey to awaken your inner rebel. That was so dramatic for no reason. Anyways, thank you so much. Check it out. Catch you in the next video. Peace.